start it again. Let me be professional and fade into the music and say hello, good morning, good afternoon, good night, good evening. I mean, not that I have that many viewers to cover the entire time zones, but for me right now it is sharp 11:01 a.m. and today is a YouTube no. Today is a live coding live stream. Too many lives. Live coding. I'm alive. The live stream is live, and I will be coding live. So it's a bit intimidating. I don't know what I'll say. I hope I don't end up deleting the stream. I will not delete the stream no matter what. Even the only way the stream will get deleted is if I just crash and burn my laptop mid coding. But let me know if you all can. I can see somebody that I have never seen before on chat. Teapot, Marker, and Nikki. Very weird name. Please explain your name. But yeah, I can already see people in the chat. Thank you. We woo, we woo, we woo, we woo. I don't know. I don't know if I can say your actual name or that's called doxing or not. But let me know if you can hear me properly and if everything sounds good. And then we can just jump into live coding. I don't know how much time it's going to take. I'm going to keep it super basic, super beginner friendly because it's easier to, I don't know, portray that. So that's my goal. It's going to be, I'm scared. I'm actually scared. I'm a software developer full time. And I also like to teach coding. But then that's in a very confined isolated environment. So to open myself to like live code in front of anybody and like, I don't know, it just makes me feel a bit more insecure about my coding skills and if my indentations are not right. I mean, I'll be writing in Python, so I have to have proper indentation, but like the format of the code, the variable names I use, I don't know. I just I think I know, and yeah, I can hear you. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you for confirming. I did try to be a bit more professional and actually create some slides at the start. So there'll be a mix of slides, and then we will jump to the code editor to actually start writing code. So let me share my screen. Ta-da! These are the slides. Woohoo! Name the variable var1, var2. No, we can do better. We know better than that. We know better than that. But yeah, good thing is there's no marking or like university instructors telling you, that's not a good variable name. You've not put too many comments. But it is good to, like now being a software developer, which is like 80% of the job is to read other people's code or especially existing code base and try to understand what the code already exists to then add on to it. I am very, very grateful of good comments, good naming conventions. And then once you start working in the software development field, that's when you realize how important it is that not only you understand your code 10 months later when you revisit it, but other people also understand what the hell you've written. So yeah, okay. So look at my professional slides. Today we will be learning how to build our own API using the Python programming language. And there's also this module / library / framework. Honestly, I keep trying to Google the difference between the three and I never remember. But this framework basically called Flask. So on the left, you can see the Python logo. Oh, actually, I can use my pointer. So this is the Python logo. It is a programming language. So for this live stream, you are expected to know a little bit of Python, but I'll try to explain all the programming concepts that I write in Python in case you're just watching, knowing some other programming language. And on the right, it's kind of like an ugly looking logo, not gonna lie, but that's the logo of Flask. When I first came across it, it honestly looks like a chili to me in like black and white. Really, I don't know, weird looking chili, but it's actually a flask, which is supposed to be like a lightweight water container. And that is supposed to reflect how lightweight and easy to use it is. Hopefully, the code is not as ugly looking as the logo, but yeah, That's the framework that we'll be using to create our API. So yeah, let's get started. Let's get into the agenda. Yeah, like a pepper, right? Like a chili slash pepper. I don't know. It doesn't look like a flask at all, but I don't know how old Flask is. So probably back in the olden times, that's how it looked like. Who knows? Let me know if you've already like worked with Flask. It's supposed to be like a web application framework. So I think people create the website backend with it, but today we'll be just focusing on creating our own personal API. I was thinking maybe our data set could be, I don't know, like movies or books, but if you have a better idea of a data set that we could create, we'll just keep it really short. Or maybe you could just like take it from an open API. I don't know. Let me just stop talking gibberish and let's actually start. What kind of exactly. I'm glad you relate with how I have views about this logo. Moving on to slide 2. So that's the agenda. We'll have, I think, 1, 2, 3, 6 agenda points. Obviously, we'll start with intro, which is this whole thing. Hopefully, you know, because you're in my channel, you know who I am. But if you're a stranger, my name's Ikra. Please do subscribe if you like the live stream or check out my other content, which is not coding related at all. So, but yeah, I'm Ikra. I'll be teaching you how to create your own API, how to build your own API using Python and Flask today. There are a few prerequisites for this live stream, so that's what we'll be touching on next. Then we will actually learn a little more about API. There's so much tech jargon when it comes to the tech field, so many acronyms and just, I don't know. Every field has its own jargon and acronyms so that it's harder for people to understand outside of that field. I feel the same about finance. There's just so many acronyms and jargons for the finance field, then similar to tech. And one of them is API. Like, how can you even build API if you don't even understand what that is? So we understand what an API is, hopefully. Then I'll touch a little bit more about Flask, which I've already mentioned, apart from the logo. And then we'll actually start building the API. So that's going to be the majority of the live stream. And then outro where I ask you to subscribe, like the stream, whatever. And if you have any questions, I'll be monitoring the chat to the best of my abilities. But if I do get distracted while coding and not look at the chat, and if your question hasn't been answered, comment down below, or we could I'll try my best to answer questions, but obviously I don't know everything that is there for API and Flask. So we might just Google things together. Because that's another thing. When I first started coding, I was like, I can never put out coding content until I know everything, which is actually impossible. And even in your day job, you're never expected to know everything. You're supposed to be using ChatGPT. You're supposed to be using Google to code. Stack Overflow. I don't think people use Stack Overflow anymore now that we have ChatGPT, but who knows? So we will be using all of that in case there are certain questions that you ask me, or I come up with certain questions that I've not thought of before that I don't know the answer to. I'll chip in to see if you're in. Oh, thank you so. Oh yeah, exactly. I can also ask for help. So yeah, thank you. It's so weird to call you wee woo instead of your real name, but I'm like, I don't know. Okay, whatever. So that's the agenda for today. Okay, introduction done. Any questions about the introduction? Let me know. But let's move on to the prerequisites. Oh, oops. Prerequisites. So the prerequisites, first of all, as I mentioned, you need to know a little bit about Python. Basic concepts like, functions, if-else statements, importing things. But as I go along, I will be telling you whatever I'm writing. But again, if you don't know what Python is, it's basically a programming language. What is a programming language? It's just a computer language, a language that helps a human communicate with a computer. Similar to English, Hindi, Bengali, that's like a language that helps you communicate between two humans. But right now we're using a computer to write our code, so we need to talk to it, so we need a language for it, and there are so many languages available. And the one that I'll be using today is called Python. It honestly looks very English like, apart from like certain words missing, certain punctuation missing. So hopefully, if you've never seen Python code before, you will be able to make sense of it, just how, because of how high level and intuitive it is. I love Python, honestly. That's my first ever language that I ever learned in my life. Right now, in my day job, I write more Swift code, but Swift and Python are very similar looking. There are some programming languages that, I don't know, it's just so chaotic and so unnecessary with so many punctuations and stuff going on. But I think Python is very clean looking and intuitive. At least it's a personal opinion, but whatever. Do let me know if you have a particular favorite programming language. I know some people get into these debates about, JavaScript is better, Python is the best programming language, C++ is C++ or C, yeah, C++ has a fan base, C sharp has a fan base. But at the end of the day, it's just a language. As long as you learn a language and learn how to use it to communicate to the computer to do whatever you want it to do, that's all that matters. I see. Oh, okay, that's actually true. So I don't know why programming like Python, if it has anything to do with snakes or not, but yeah, for the non-tech people, when you say Python, it's basically just that. What's the difference between Python and Anaconda? But yeah, do have an Anaconda related environment slash tool for Python? I don't know if the creators were into snakes or not, but yeah, in this context for today's live stream, it has nothing to do with snakes, but all about like programming language. So that's prerequisite one. You should have Python installed in your computer if you haven't already. Now, language done, right? But even though we know a language, we would need a place for us to write it somewhere. Similar to like if you're writing a novel, you would decide on a language, so let's say English, but then you would actually need a place to write those words down. So it could either be like a pen or paper, or a Word document, or a scroll, or a tree, or a wall, wherever. Similarly, for us, we've nailed down the language, Python. So, and the place that we will be actually writing Python code is, again, PyCharm. That's what I've picked for today. There are so many options, so many different places you can write code. You can even start with like writing it on a notepad or code editor. Notepad. But PyCharm, again, jargon, it's an IDE, integrated development environment. So just like a nice little contained environment where you can write your code, experiment with it, run it, and see what it will look like. Some of the other options are VS Code, and that's all I can think of. I think I'm blanking out. But yeah, the code editor where we'll be actually writing Python code is PyCharm. There are two versions, Professional and Community Edition. Community Edition is free for life. Professional is paid and it gets you extra features, but honestly, would not recommend. Just if you haven't downloaded PyCharm and if you want to follow along, I would suggest going to PyCharm Community Edition, downloading that, and then you'll have the same code editor as me. Oh, also Python has like different versions. Unless you're like from 100 years ago, you will be writing in Python 3 instead of Python 2. So that's the syntax we'll be following. I remember I learned Python 2 as my first programming language, and you had raw input and input, but now you just have inputs. Oh, I have some comments. Let's see. Are we going to play a modified Nokia snake game? It's going to be really interesting because like I don't make coding content, so I don't know if you have any, like, have you ever programmed or not? But it'll be really interesting to see how people um, perceive tech content to like their own field. But yeah, nothing. We're not going to be making a game. We're going to make an API, and I'll explain what an API is. Let me guess. PyCharm is from India. Why? Land of snake charmers. Okay. And the third prerequisite for today is Postman. And again, this will make more sense when we understand what an API is. But Postman is basically another tool for us to help test our API and see if everything's working all right or not. So these are the three things you need to have it downloaded before you even follow along with me. So Python, PyCharm, and Postman. Each of them, if you just go to Google and be like, download Python for Windows or Mac, whatever, download PyCharm, download Postman, and then you can have all those downloaded. So language, code editor, and an API testing tool. Those are the three things we would be needing. Cool. Moving on. We will go briefly touch on API. I'm not gonna like give an entire lecture about API, even though that's very much possible. You can just like keep explaining what an API is, different types of APIs, and blah blah blah. I'll just briefly touch on what an API is according to my way of thinking, and then we can actually start coding, and then that's when we realize what it actually is. So, what is an API? API, first of all, is just like three letters, right? So each of the individual letters have to stand for something. So API stands for Application Program. I'm gonna Google this. I should have a separate slide for the full form, but let's see. API stands for Application Programming Interface. So again, if we break those three letters down, application, which could be anything like your own coding application, the web browser application, your mobile application, something like a software application. Programming interface. So again, I stands for interface. So let's say you have, oh, I have a diagram here. Why can I not use this? So let's say here you have your computer, like your own client side application, and then you have another side to it. So there's this middle layer. So we have our own client side, and then we have a server side application, and the interface between the two is your API. So how I like to think of it is there are two layers trying to communicate with each other, and the system or the technology that helps two applications communicate with each other by being like a middleman is your API. So in our case, we will be opening a web browser and trying to access our own data that we have in our local computer, like in our PyCharm, through to a web browser, and the link between the two would be our Flask API. And there are like a bunch of analogies. Like I've heard, like if you go to a restaurant and you're the customer and you try to order food from the kitchen, so your kitchen becomes your web server or your database, and you customer become your client server, and the middleman, which is the menu card, and the waiter becomes your API. So that's an analogy that I found quite useful. There are a couple of other analogies. Let me know what analogies you've come across if you have any. But yeah, essentially that's the middle layer between two client side and server side is the API that we'll be creating today. I've also put RESTful APIs and CRUD operations. That's a bit technical. Should I explain it? Maybe I should. So again, the middle layer can be, there are so many different types of applications, right? Like I mentioned, web application, mobile application, operating system application, blah, blah, blah. So many applications. So depending on what type of application you're trying to communicate between, there can be different types of APIs. And one of them, so the different types, again, could be a web API, could be an OS API, could be an mobile API. And because there are so many different types of APIs, there are certain infrastructures put in place, infrastructure or rules put in place, so that there are so many developers around the world. There should be some rules and regulations followed, or some sort of guideline to follow while creating these middlemen. And one of these architecture or guidelines are RESTful APIs. Again, REST actually stands for something. So I'm going to quickly Google what REST stands for because I can't remember these acronyms, honestly. REST stands for Representational State Transfer API. And this is basically just a way, let me just read the meaning because I don't like these meanings. So RESTful API stands for Representational State Transfer. It's an architectural style for designing networked application. And that's what we'll be focusing on. We'll be focusing on creating a RESTful API, which is, again, will help you create between network applications, so our HTTP browser and our like Flask API system. And then we can also have like the client side, but we'll forget about that. Yeah, so basically for RESTful, the main thing you have to remember is the architecture and the use of HTTP methods are used. So some of the HTTP methods are like get, post, put, and delete. There are others, but the four common are get, post, put, delete. And that's how usually, when you think about like a data, oh, somebody's messaging me. Hello, sorry for bothering you. I want to offer promotion for your oh my god, is this a bot? I shouldn't have stopped my explanation for this, but no, thank you. Thank you for your message, but not interested. What was I saying? I completely lost track. I was talking about right, but now, when two applications are talking, if you really think about it, it all boils down to somehow accessing data of some type. Like it, even though it could be a web API, it could be a mobile app API, it could be an operating system API, whatever the API, whatever the application system is, all technology systems are all sorts of communication between humans, between computers. It all boils down to some sort of exchange of data or exchange of information, which is why when you think about data, you could either use data to get more data, you could use data to create more data, or update existing data, or delete some data. So if you're like using a social media, you could go to another people's Instagram bio or Instagram profile to get all the posts that they have posted. You could also create your own Instagram stories, reels, videos. You could, if you've posted a story, you could go to the title or the title or the description and update what you like, maybe like a mistake, like a typo or whatever. Or you could completely delete a post. So those are the four main operations you could pretty much do with the data, which is what CRUD stands for. And this also relates to the RESTful HTTP methods that I talked about. So there's a link between the two. So CRUD stands for create, read, update, or delete, which is what you can do with the data. So for create, the RESTful HTTP method would be get. Sorry, no, not create would be post, reading would be get, update would be put, and delete is delete. I hope the order would be the same because it's like get, post, put, delete. So get is reading the data, post is creating the data, put is updating the data, and deleting is deleting the data. CRUD is the German part. What do you mean German part? We are not doing German at all. So that's the connection. That's why I put CRUD operations and RESTful, because RESTful would, so API would be the middleman between two application systems. And we will be following a RESTful API design to create our own API, which uses HTTP methods. And the API will have endpoints. We will be using get, post, put, and delete. And that automatically or directly relates to the CRUD operations that we can then execute using our API that we create by using a tool like Postman to do those operations. Okay, I'm going to move on. I'm spending too much time on this. I want to like jump into PyCharm and start creating things. Okay, Now, finally, let's just like touch up on Flask, what it actually is. I had like an official definition. Flask is a micro web framework written in Python. It's simple, flexible, and lightweight, making it perfect for beginners and small projects. Flask allows you to build web applications quickly with a lot of flexibility. So, because Python or any other language is kind of famous, a lot of people use Python as their programming language. There are these different frameworks, modules, libraries, basically code written by other people that you can use easily, implement in your projects so that you don't have to keep reinventing the wheel again and again. There are libraries so that you can do math operations quite easily without you having to, you know, write code about how to calculate tan, sine, cos, or area, or I don't know, logarithmic operations. There are libraries where you can um, understand, make the computer understand how time works, the dates for a particular month, year, whatever. There are again different frameworks to create charts and tables. There are some creative ones as well, but similar to that, there are other like group of developers that took the time to create a framework, or just like a how would I explain framework, like a skeleton of code that other developers can just use in their projects whenever they want to create a web application using the Python programming language. And that's why we'll be using that instead of writing something from scratch that is able to interact with the web browser. We will just be using other people's code that wrote Flask, use that, and then build up on that project. So Flask specifically is used whenever you want to write Python code, but you want to have some interaction with the web browser. So in our case, because we're creating a web API that follows a RESTful architecture, we will be interacting with the browser to get back the data that we have in our data set. Because there is a web application aspect to it, we will be using Flask. That's the reason. There are, just because there's Flask, similar to a code editor, a programming language, there's always tons of options available. So there are other web application frameworks for Python. Another famous one is Django, which has a D in the front. Again, I don't know why. These names are really weird, but I'm sure there are like other options available. Flask is better for like lightweight, more easier, beginner friendly work, and Django has a lot more extensive features, but it also has like a lot more code and a lot more documentation to implement certain things. So I've chosen Flask, again, personal preference, because it helps me create what I want in the most simple way and most intuitive way for me personally. But then just remember that there are other frameworks, tools, applications that you can use or experiment with in your own time if you feel like you want to explore this side of tech. Cool. I think that's all the slides that I had. And now we can finally jump to the code editor and start coding. Okay. Any questions? Did any of whatever I said make sense? Hopefully, at least 10% of it made sense. Probably I'll rewatch this live stream and then, think that I confused myself and the viewers more than help you all, but whatever. You're learning Flask, exactly. Hi, hippie Gosling, cool name. But yeah, let me know if you already know Flask. But yeah, I'll be creating a API using Python and Flask. Let me just quickly see. What's the next slide. Oh yeah, it's outro. Cool. Okay, let's jump into PyCharm. So I have incognito in case I need to Google things around, but let's actually move to PyCharm. So like I mentioned, PyCharm is the code editor or the integrated development environment where we'll be writing our code. So I'm going to click on new project. Let us name this Let us just name this test my API. Not the best name, but that's what I come up with. Now, the way PyCharm works is obviously you would need to create a name for your project, and then you have to decide where you want to store your project. So I'm just going to store it on my desktop. But if you want to store it somewhere else, you click on this folder icon and then navigate to wherever you want to store it. I'm clicking desktop. The other important thing is, in case you're using Git for version controlling, you would initialize it here, or you would just go to your Git repository, but we won't, that's like a whole separate video and we can just ignore that. We also have to select our Python version. Like I mentioned, there's Python 2, Python 3, and like even Python 3 has other versions. So depending on what you have installed in your computer, it should automatically select it for you, and you don't have to play around with this. But in case you have multiple Python versions and there's a specific one that you want to use for this project, you would then go into the set drop down list and figure it out. But in my case, and for most of you guys, it should have auto-selected Python 3 point something. So we should just leave it as it is. So the only two changes that you have to make is decide on a name for the project and also decide where you want to store it in your computer. And then you just press create. Once you press create, what happens is, because PyCharm is an integrated development environment, an IDE, it will go ahead and create your Python project environment necessary with all these .ven. Can you all see? I don't know if I should increase the, let me just increase it that much, maybe? I don't know if that helps. But yeah, like you can see, the moment I pressed create, there's a bunch of files that were created for the project that I named Test My API. And one of the folder that was created is called .vn, virtual environment. That's what it stands for. So this is basically creating a virtual environment with all the different extra files that we don't have to worry about, that will help the compiler and basically our computer to understand the Python code that we write and then run it. It just helps with that aspect. So our virtual environment is created in PyCharm, and we can finally start creating our first Python file where we can write our Python code. So the way to do that, a couple of ways, is either you can go to File and create new file, or you can just right-click on the project name, go to New, and then you can pretty much create all these different files, but we are going to be working with Python files, so we're going to go ahead and create that. Even though I mentioned that you should know Python before this live stream, it's customary to just like do a hello world. So I'm just going to show you how to create a simple Python file and execute it before we actually start writing our API code. So if I just come here and again, name the file inside the project. Remember, first we created the project, named it, stored it. Now inside the project, we are creating our first file. Let's just create it as first file. And we already have Python file selected, so I'm just going to hit enter. What you will see is, it's called firstfile.py. The extension py is how computers realize what type of file it is. If it's a PowerPoint file, it'll be .pptx. If it's a Word document, it's .doc. So it's called a file extension. The dot and then the file type is how computers understand what kind of file this is. In our case, it's a Python file, so all our Python files will end with a .py. Cool, so our first Python file is created, and you can see there's like a cursor already. Oh, I can actually increase the size, blinking for us to write things. So it is actually customary to write hello world in any programming language when you first write things. So our first line of code will be print, and then we can just write hello world. Cool. So this is just like a line that lets you print out or display a message on our Python console. And then the way you run a file is by either right-clicking and clicking on run, or there's also this run button here at the top right. And if you just press this, you see your message print out at the bottom. So if I just put Hello YouTube. I think there are some people watching from Twitch, but I mainly stream on YouTube. Hello YouTube/Twitch. You'll see that the message turned into that. So this is quite useful because whenever we do some logic and write our code in logic, depending on what the result of that logic is, we can always print things out and see if we're on the right track or not. Cool. So now that the customary thing is done, we can just switch to Flask. Now let's start with creating a Flask application. Okay, so now because I said Flask is something that other people wrote, like a bunch of developers, and we are using that in our project. So the very first thing that we have to do is get that from like the Python world into our own local computer. And the way we do that is by importing things. So Flask is a web framework, and to get other people's framework libraries into our own local projects, you have to do two things. First of all, if it's not like a local library, you first have to install it. And the second thing is then import it into our files. So the first thing is installing that particular framework library to our Python project. Again, a couple of ways to do that is by using pip command in your terminal, which is pip stands for Python. Oh my God, is something manager. Pip. Does anybody know what pip stands for? Let me just Google it. Pip stands for personal independence payment. No, absolutely not. It stands for, it's some Python package manager, but I can't see what the, oh my God, I should just say Google Python. Pip install packages. Okay, yeah. Pip stands for pip install packages, which is kind of like a recursive acronym, but we won't talk about that. And the way you would use pip is through a terminal command inside your local project. So in the left-hand side, you can see you have the Python console, then you have the run button, and then one of the icons is the terminal. So if you click on the terminal, this actually shows your command prompt or your terminal. Command prompt is what's called in Windows, terminal is what's called on Macs. And then if you just use pip command, let me just see if it's actually installed here. So if I just write pip and then enter, it should give me a bunch of options that I can get. When you write pip and it press enter and it says pip not found, it essentially means that you don't have the package manager installed into your computer, and you first have to install pip, then install packages through it. So weird. So just because there's like I have pip installed, in case you all don't have pip installed, another easier way to do things is just by using the package manager integrated within this PyCharm environment. So there's like this icon called Python packages, where you can just go type in Flask. I think it's with capital F. Is it not there? Let's see. Refresh. Show to. My Wi-Fi is not the best, so this not. Hope there's no lag, but it's showing some packages found in the background. So if it's working for you, this is the second way: either installing it through the terminal or using the Python package. There's a third option, which is if you just import the package on your file without using it, then it gives you like a hover option, and then you can just click on that, and then PyCharm will install it for you. So which option should I try? Let me try option 3, because it's like the most graphic user friendly. So let me just close down the terminal. I don't really need it. So at the top, what you have to do is you have to import the framework that you want to use. So we want to import Flask, something like this. Now, the moment I write import Flask as the very first line of my code, you'll see these red squiggly lines because I haven't really installed Flask. So I'm trying to import something that I haven't installed in my project. And this is the third way that I was talking about. If you hover over it, what? Is it capital F? If you hover over is my internet not working? Because you have to install this from somewhere in the internet, right? Okay, let's just go with the terminal. I changed my mind. So if I just do pip install Flask, let's see what it gives me. Okay, the pip install works. I'm just going to go with that option. I wanted to show you the third option, which is like importing it from here itself, but that's not working. That's fine. So what I did is go to my terminal and basically type pip install Flask. So I used the Python package manager and installed this web framework that we'll be using, which is called Flask. So now that we have it installed, we can essentially then import it into our individual Python files that we'll have in this project. So we can do import. Essentially, we should be able to do import Flask. And now instead of the red squiggly line, it actually has yellow squiggly line, which is good because it's basically saying you were able to import it because you have it installed, but you haven't really used it anywhere. So anytime you have red squiggly lines in PyCharm for any of your imports, that means you haven't installed things. But if it's like grayed out and it's yellow in color, that means you have imported it properly, but you haven't used it yet. So that's good for us. Now, before I move on to doing the rest of it, this Flask framework has a lot of things inside it. So it's quite common to have a different type of importing in your file, which is you say from the framework or library that you want to import. So from Flask, and then you write import the individual functions or modules that you want to use in your file so that your project only uses or only imports things that it actually uses, not the entire library. So as we go along, we might just change it to, instead of import Flask, we would change it to from Flask import certain things. But for now, let's just keep it as import Flask. So first line of code done. Hopefully there were no errors in your side of code, but I'm still unsure why the red squiggly line didn't work or the Python packages didn't work. But yeah, that's the second thing. Do I have to mention anything else? Oh yeah, sometimes instead of pip and you press enter, it might say command not found. So you might have to write pip3, but I still don't know when pip is used and pip3 is used. I haven't looked into it. So we shall leave that as it is. Cool. Before I move forward, is anybody like following along, or you're just gonna like watch me code and then is anybody? Yeah, I just want to know if anybody's following along, because then that would depend on my speed. Because I might have to like wait for people to catch up or just keep coding away and explaining things. Oh, I see a comment. We might need to download the package and import it from add packages since Flask is an external one. Yeah, exactly. That's what I did. I installed the package and then imported it. You are right. Cool. Nobody mentions anything, so I'm just gonna carry on. Now, before I create an API, because Flask is a web application framework, let me actually create our app and write a little bit of HTML code to show you how it actually looks like in a web browser. And then we can modify that code to solely focus on our API. So the very first line of code, once you've imported Flask, is to actually create an app variable that can be then used everywhere else to make use of Flask. So a good variable to call that is app, and then you can name that as the variable can be called app, and then you use the module called Flask with a capital F, and then inside the Flask, inside Oh, that's another thing. You would always have to write flask.flask. You would have to provide the name of your current app that you're running. And in Python, that's usually main. But a synonymous would be underscore underscore name underscore underscore. But let me just comment this out and quickly show you. If I just print name here, in most cases, it will usually be main because that's the app file that you're running. So you see, if I print name, it's actually main. So that's what I'm passing inside Flask. So I've created a variable app that contains our Flask app. And this app variable is how we will be using other Flask functions to then interact with the web browser. Cool. Okay, so again, the very first function that we can create using our app is probably like just something that says hello world. So let's create a function called hello. DEF is basically, okay, do I explain functions? I'm just going to assume that you know what a function is in Python programming. So we are creating a function called hello, and a function always has round brackets, a colon, and then the body of the function goes inside the indentation. So this time we could just say return hello world. This is too big, so I'm just going to reduce the font a little bit. Cool. So our function called hello is returning a string called hello world. Cool. Now, if you weren't using Flask, which is used for web browser, you could literally just call hello inside the file and run this, and it would print, oh, sorry. Maybe let's just do print this. If you just print the function that you're calling, it would call hello world. But we're not interested in creating a Python console application. We're interested in creating a Python web application. So instead of just calling the function from here, we will be using Flask to interact with the browser to call the same function. So instead of printing hello world here in the Python console, we will be calling it in a web browser. So there are a couple of changes you have to do. Obviously, we have to use the app somehow, and we would also have to run the local server to then open it on a web browser. So the two changes that you have to make is first, with this function, add a decorator to it. So to provide the root for the local server of where you want to display this hello world. So the first thing that you do is create a decorator, which utilizes this app, and you provide the root for it. Okay. So we could just have an empty root for now, and we can create more roots or more endpoints as we build our API. I am not looking at the charts. I don't know if I want to follow along, but my stupid computer is giving problems. Okay, that's fine. Antriksh, you can just watch it for now and then maybe understand it and then go to your computer once it starts working and then just write it on your own. But if you have any questions at any point, just let me know. I'll keep trying to look at the chart, but I might struggle because there's a lot of multitasking going on. Okay, so we've created a decorator and we've provided the root. So anytime we just go to our local host server, we should have hello world printed. Now, we've created the root, but again, remember, just by creating a function, it doesn't actually run. We have to run this app and then go to the browser to see our output. So right now, if I just run this app, nothing happens. It just finished with no errors, which is a good thing, but nothing really happened. So what we have to do is actually do app.run. Now, there is a convention of doing this because we've provided the Flask app name to be name or main. So let's just double check that. So we say if this underscore underscore name is equal to main. Then we want to run the app. So app.run. And now, I forgot the colon. So now we've added two things. We've done a check. We only want to run the app when the name is main, which we know in our case it is, and we have provided a root to our hello function. So now if I go and run this, you'll see we have this server, our local server running at port 5000. So this is our local host server. And if now I click on this link, I don't want Git. It prints the exact same thing, hello world. Can you all see that actually? I don't know. So instead of printing our hello world inside the console, what we did is use a decorator to this function and use the same app, provided a root for it. And now if we go to this URL or this root, our function is called, which prints out hello world. We could, instead of this root, instead of /, we could say hello. Hello is our root. So only if we go to the, so we have to keep like stopping the server and running it again every time we make a change. There is a more efficient way, but I haven't learned that yet. So I'm just going to stop it and rerun it, which will be a little cumbersome, but bear with me. So now that I've made this change, now that I've changed the root to /hello, this function will only run when I go to this particular root of my server. So run it. Again, things are running. But if I go here, it says not found because we really haven't created a root for our just /URL. But only when I go to /hello is when our hello world is shown. So that's quite easy. We're interacting with the web browser by just creating an app.root decorator for our specific function. And then the moment we go to that root, that particular function is executed. Very lightweight, very easy, very flexible. Similarly, we could have multiple roots, right? So instead of, we can have a hello root, we can also have, just when we go to the URL itself, we could have, I don't know, base function. I'm really bad with naming. Base function, let's just call that. Let's just say drop the base. So now we have two roots. One that just goes to the root function and the other one that goes to hello. Again, I'm just going to stop this thing and run it. Go to this link. It says drop the base. But when I go to a different root, which is hello, it says hello world. Those are the only two roots. So those are the only ones available to us. If I go for anything else, let's say something else, again, not found because we haven't created it. And that's how different websites, depending on which URL root you go to, different information is displayed. Root part is not clear to me at all. Oh, okay. I tried it. Like, what particular is not clear? I can explain it again, but app.root just basically lets you create a way for a particular function to navigate to, depending on what the content of the function is and what root you set it to. 404, yeah, that's exactly. Not 404. So whenever you just go to a random website, so let's say we go to, my website is called icra.com. Let's actually see. I don't actually like going to that website because it's not HTTPS. But okay, let's just go to my website, okay? It says, it's not going. Oh, it is going. So this is my own website, icra.com, right? Now I haven't created a root for it. It's just icra.com. So if I go to hello, it will say 404, like Ayush said, because we haven't really created a root for it. And that's, so there are different errors, HTTP errors. That's a good thing to learn, actually. Let's just There's a really cool website called HTTP Cats. Let's go there. And it gives you cool cat images related to what error you get. So every time you get a 200 response back from the browser, that means everything went well. There was a route for it, there is function that is being executed, and there is data to be provided. So you get a 200 response and the web browser displays it. But if you get a 404 error, that means that route was not there or something went wrong and that didn't exist, not found, and that's when you get this error. There are so many errors available. Another one that you get quite common is 502, bad gateway. So again, there are different reasons for all of this being shown to you, but this is a good website to go to depending on what error you get while trying to access a URL, and then you can also get cat images along with it. Connection not private means that the website, yeah, exactly. My own my own domain, I didn't bother to create it using HTTPS method. Sorry, but it's literally static data. I try to write a poem on myself. That's so self-indulgent in 2019. So I didn't bother. You can hack my website. It's like literally HTML code, so you can't really do much with it. But yeah, the bad thing is not everyone can open it because it's the browser will automatically say it's a threat, but it's not, I promise. Anyways, let's get back to Flask. I got distracted. That's another thing about me. I might get distracted while coding when I go on a different tangent. Okay, was everything clear? Oh, that was an old question. Sorry, Neg Varsa. I saw that after explaining everything. So, oh, and the best part is because web browser is displaying this text, we can actually write HTML code inside that function. So instead of writing hello world, if I just write, so instead of writing one sentence, if I want to write multiple sentences within a function, I have to use 3 quotes. And then inside that, I can just write as many lines of code I want. So because this is a web browser, it is very much capable of using HTML code and then converting that into like what the browser would interpret it as. So we can write HTML code if you all are familiar. We can just write a h1 tag saying hello. We can write a h2 tag, and maybe let's provide an image as well. Let's try that. So h2 could be, oh my god, the worst part about coding is typing things. This is our h2 tag, and then also let's add an image. This is not good practice, by the way. You're not supposed to like write all your HTML code and your Python code all in the same file. But just to show you things, I'm just going to write this. Image would need a source. So let's just go find a cat image. This one looks cute. Copy image address. Okay. So if I just provide this image, which is huge. So now inside our hello root, we have returned some HTML code, which is a h1 tag, h2 tag, and an image source. Now if I go ahead and run this, stop and rerun, the base root still has dropped the base, but the moment we go to, hopefully this works. Now if we go to underscore hello, ta-da, we actually have HTML code display, which is a h1 tag, h2 tag, and an image tag. So you can literally create your entire website by using Flask and Python code if you're not into like, yeah. Very cool, right? Let me go back to the chart. You return string, what else can you return? Oh, I mean, anything that a Python function can, you can return HTML code, but this is still a string. You could return numbers if you want. Let's actually try that actually. So let me just, but then because a web browser is running this function, no matter what you return, it will always display whatever is compatible with the browser. So even though I'm returning a number in this case, it would return a number, which is technically a text. But another thing that web browser are really good at displaying are JSON objects, which is exactly what we will be returning, because our API data will be contained within a JSON object, and then we will be returning those JSON objects to the browser while communicating with our API. So if I just run the let's actually make this number is equal to 2. And then just to show you that this is a number, I'm quite curious actually. So inside the console, this should print out a number. And then if I run this, let's see what happens. I need to keep going back to the... Oh, actually, interesting. I thought it would return a text, but I'm wrong. I stand corrected. So it says the server encountered an internal error and was unable to complete your request. Ooh, interesting. So that means you can't actually return a number. You have to return a string or something that's compatible with your browser. So technically, if I return an str, which is a string of 2, then it should work. That's my theory, at least. Let's see. Rerun, and then, yeah, now it works. Good catch, neg Vorsa. So that was a really good question, which made me learn something new. So if your function returns not a string, or I'm very confident that you can return a JSON object because that's what we're going to do. But you cannot return a number or anything that's not compatible with a web browser. So let's actually Google that. What can you return? Valid things to return from Flask function. Maybe that's a good enough question to ask. How do I get the return? That's not actually the right question. I will find the answer later, actually. But then, yeah, to answer your question, you can't return a number. So you have to convert it to a string. And one of the functions that you can do that is by using str, which basically just converts things. So yeah, your question was list. Let's try it and see if lists are compatible. You never know, right? We don't really need this, so that's fine. Let's return a list. Why is there a squiggly line? Redundant. Oh, that's fine. Stop and rerun. This time, let's... Ooh, would you look at that? A list is compatible. Who would have thought? I'm so intrigued. Now I want to know like a list of things that you can return from a function without it erroring. Technically, because a list can be considered a JSON object, because I'm pretty sure you can also return a dictionary. So 1 could be 1, 2 could be 2, 3 could be 3. That's just like the worst dictionary in the world. But if I do this, I'm sure you can still run. Yeah. So why only a number is discriminated against? That makes no sense. Stop and rerun. I just want to confirm again. Yeah, every time, only when you return a number is when you're getting an internal server error. No idea why. But yeah, keep your questions coming because they're really interesting and helping me learn more things, and you as well, hopefully. Okay, hopefully that was all clear. Oh, I lost my cat code, but that's fine. That was just like a few lines of HTML code, which is not that important in our case. So any object that can be converted to a string. That's true, but only in the case of a number. Only when you like explicitly convert it into a string is when you're not getting an error. But if you just put a number, it's not converting into a string, which is weird. Because even the dictionary, the key and the value was a number and number, but then that time it didn't have any problem. Okay, so we learned, even though this is like what 15 lines of code, including the spaces, we learned quite a lot of stuff. We learned how to import the web application that we're using. We learned how to create the app. We learned how to create different routes and display information according to which route we go to. And we learned the different types of errors that can come in your web browser and some of the acceptable types of data types that you can return from your function while opening it in a browser. I am going to take like a 2-3 minutes break, because I've been like sitting in this chair for like more than 1 hour. You also go around, like get the blood flow going, walk around, drink some water, and then let's come back in 2 minutes. Because the next thing that we'll be doing is actually creating our own data set and then using different endpoints to access it. Oh, that's actually good. So take 2 minutes and think of a data set that you want to. Before that, let's actually use a different API that's already existing and use it, and then we can create our own API. Actually, that would be a better way of doing that. Okay, yeah. So be back in 2 minutes, and then we'll experiment with some open APIs that already exist before creating our own. What overlay should I show? Maybe I'll put some music on. Hopefully that's working. Is that too loud? I don't like that music. Daydreaming. Let's see how that sounds. Yeah, okay, cool. And BRB. Oh, I have a BRB screen. Cool. I should be back. I am back. Stop the music. I don't know if I can keep the music in the background just for like not the dead silence, but one of the songs that I really like while coding is Mario Lo-Fi. It's the best coding music that exists. I just put it on loop and it's the best coding music to be put in the background. Highly recommend. Mario Lo-Fi, if you haven't checked it out, definitely do. But yeah, I just went, drank some water, walked around, and now we are back to creating our own API. I mean, we didn't really start yet, but we wanted to lay the groundwork to be able to do it. So Next up, what should we do? We should start creating our own API, right? Again, I don't think I'll be following the best practices, because the best practice would be to have your local database, maybe like in MySQL, and have your tables and your data created there. Then import those data into your Python file, and then let people interact with your database using your API. The database part we will be not covering in this live stream. I might do another one if I feel like this was useful. But for now, we'll just create our database using like a JSON object and just store it in our Python project rather than talking to a database. Okay, so that's like one expectation solved. I could just get data from like out in the world. But to keep things simple, we'll create our own JSON object so we know what kind of data we're working with instead of spending time looking at some data and then figuring out how to access it. I haven't created the data, so I'm just going to do it right now quickly. What I was thinking is maybe create a data set of all the people watching right now, but then I could just put like dummy data. You don't actually have to give me like your actual information. I feel like that's a bit tricky. So let's just do that, okay? So I'm gonna go to the comments and like just pick up the people that are watching and just give you hypothetical information, like hypothetical information about yourself that might or may not be true. And I will also just like clean up this code because we don't need the two roots. We'll just keep one as the like base root, and this can just print hello, welcome to our website, welcome to our site. And I can go ahead and delete this root. So we just have one root right now, and we'll build up on it as we go along. Now, before we start creating our endpoints for our API, we shall create our data, like I mentioned. Cool. So in order for us to create our data, we could create it in a separate file, or we could just use it here. Let's just create it in a separate file for organization purposes. So again, I'm going to hover over my project, create a new, let's just create it as a Python file for now to make things easier. Python file, and we can call it livestream viewer. I can't spell. Livestream viewer data. Cool. And then we can call this a data object. And because we found out before the break that we can actually return lists, let's go ahead and create a list. I can make this a little bigger. Okay, so this is going to be our list of live stream viewers that I have right now. And each of that list will have its own dictionary. Okay. So let's just start with dictionary key value pairs. The first one could be name. Oops. I'm just going to put myself because I'm viewing my own live stream right now. Name. Let's just go with, I don't know, age. Let's put my actual age, which is 25. What else can I put? Favorite color. Right now it's blue. It keeps changing. What else can I put? Nationality, which is Indian. That should be okay. Yeah, we have a string, we have a number. Maybe we can put another one, which could be a list. Would that be too complicated? Let's just keep it simple. Let's just work with strings and numbers for now. Oh, these should be strings, my bad. Oops. I don't know how to. That's the most. I use my trackpad a lot more. There are some people that type using their keyboard and they don't even like lift their hand. They can just do all the shortcuts. I'm not one of them. I have to use my mouse and my keyboard constantly, and I'm a very slow typer, but then that's what it is. Okay, so this is our first dictionary about myself. Let's add maybe two more. So it'll be the same dictionary with the same keys, but the values will change. Okay. Yeah. Hopefully this makes sense. So right now our array or list has two dictionary objects. One is myself, and we can have another one. Let's put what was it? Neg Vorsa? Vorsa. Do you want space? Oh, there's no space. Age, I don't know. Let's just put your age as 89 years. I'm sure you're not 89, but let's just put it as 89. Your favorite color, because I see your image is like green. Is that from Mario? Like your profile image? I don't know. Like that it's a dinosaur. I don't know, whatever. I'll just put it as green. Oh, you're 18. Okay, let's just put it. I hope you're okay with this. 18, nationality, I'm just gonna assume Indian. Let's just go with that. Or let's put no. Is this a bad idea? Will I get like I can't get cancelled for putting random information about people, right? Okay, and one more person. Let us put oh my god, I hate this formatting. I should have downloaded a formatter for PyCharm, but it's fine. Let's go with Ayush. I don't know what your age is. I'm just gonna put 89. I'm gonna put because you're wearing a white. Is that a white shirt or a pink shirt? I'll just put white. And nationality Indian. Cool. That's all. We have a bunch of Indian viewers. That's fine. And the spacing is off, but anyways, that doesn't matter. So again, we have a list of three objects: name, age. And the dictionary inside has like a few key value pairs: name, age, favorite color, nationality. Cool. So because we have this data set in our Livestream viewer data Python file. Oh, I forgot wee woo. Sorry. Obviously, I'm gonna add wee woo. My bad. Well, let's have four people. Wee woo. I'm gonna put your age as 99. Favorite color because I can see is that Kingdom of Hearts stuff black. Okay. Nationality. I'm also gonna make you Indian. Cool. So that is done. Okay, you're too Your favorite color is indigo gray. Sure, let's put cool, cool. Other people like Irish and Negorsa, if you want to make up like made up information about yourself, feel free to send it. I'll update. Oh, we can actually use put to update our information. So right now, let's just work with this. It looks ugly because it's not like indented properly, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, okay, cool. So we have a data set. Now what we do is we go back to our it's good convention to actually name your that's the debugging. It's good convention is that a word to keep your file name as app.py or server-side.py because this is actually your server-side code that is helping you interact with your data set. So instead of first line.py, I'm just going to refactor it. Where's the rename? Can I rename files? Refactor, and I'm going to rename the file to app.py because this is more like you can name it whatever you want, but it's a good practice to just keep it as what usually people look for. So app.py is our Flask app, and Livestream viewer data is where our data is. Essentially, this data needs to be stored in a separate database and then you access it, but that's like a lot more code to deal with. So I'm just localizing the data to a separate Python file for now. Now, again, because this data set lives in a separate file, we won't really have access to data. So right now, if I try to print data, it's going to complain. It doesn't know what data is. So it's going to say name data is not defined, even though data is here. So we have to import it, basically. So we got to import. So this is a good place. So we'd say from Livestream viewer data. Oh my God, can I please type import data? Why is it complaining? This should have worked. Is there a naming mistake? Or because it has rename? Let's just rename it to Livestream. Hopefully to make things easier. Maybe you can't have like dashes inside. Yeah, okay, that worked for some reason. So from Livestream, we are importing only the data bit. I mean, it only has data, but it's going to help us solve not write Livestream dot data every time. So from Livestream, we have imported data, which is our actual data that we're going to be writing an API for. And now if I print it, it's not going to give us any error. So if I go up, you can actually see the list printed out, and it's also running the app. So let's just go ahead and not run the app for now. Cool. Oh, the if statement. Okay. Now if I just run the app, we have no error, but also we are able to print our data that we just created. Cool. Everything's working fine. So now with that we have access to data, we can then manipulate it and again show it in the browser, but also use other HTTP methods to create new ones, update existing ones, or delete existing ones. So that's essentially what we'll be doing, and then we'll be wrapping off this live stream. Because I thought it's going to be 1 hour, but I feel like I talked too much and it's already 1.5 hours. Cool. So now that we have access to data, we can just remove that print data line, uncomment this. Now, if you remember, like the query section of this live stream, the first very easy and important thing to do is to be able to make a GET request. GET request or read request in CRUD operation is basically wherever your database is, your server database data is, using your API to be able to go fetch that data, and then the response, you display it. So that's where all this response, request, jargon comes into play as an API. So your local application will make a request using your API to get the data response. The database or your Python file that has the data will send back the response to the API, and the API will then display it to your client. Cool. So let's go ahead and implement that. So let's just create another root for it. Actually, before we create a root, let's go ahead and see if all of this will work in the console itself before we display it on our browser. So again, I'm just going to comment this out. And what I'm going to do is create another function. This function could say something like display viewers. Okay, display viewers, perfect. And display viewers, what it essentially does is just displays the data that we have access to. So we would say, because it's a list, we could like iterate over it, and we could say for item in data, let's just go ahead and print the item first and see how that works. And then we can try to use that as a GET request. Oh, we didn't call the function. My bad. Okay. So it is printing the function, which is a good thing, I guess. But remember that even though this will work, I guess, again, it's a good practice to send over either a string, which is already the case, but in the case of APIs, it's always a good idea to send a JSON object to the browser, or like get back JSON object. Like create your requests by sending in JSON objects. So even though technically this is a JSON object, a good practice is always to wrap your whatever item that you want to display or whatever inside this function called, it's also provided by Flask, flask.jsonify thing. Yeah, JSONify. And then you can just print. Technically, you could just JSONify the data and print it, but whatever. It's up to you. Yeah, actually, I could just send in the data itself. Why am I going through a for loop? Okay, so our get request will basically just go grab the data and display it to the browser. Okay, so I'm just going to return flask.jsonify data. So this becomes our get request. And if I run this, there's some error. Why is there an error? Am I not using it properly? Wait, let me just do a little bit of debugging by using print statements. If I just print data, what happens? Okay, but then why can't I JSON? Oh, can I not JSONify a list? Okay, I'm gonna print this and see what happens. Oh, maybe because I'm not running the app, so JSONify doesn't work. Okay, let's just uncomment this and comment this out. Oh, and I don't have an app as well. Okay. Let's just call this as viewers. Okay, let's hope this works. So the app is running, the server is running, and if I go to my viewers, I am getting back my object, which is good. So I feel like the last time it didn't work is because in this function, I'm using flask.jsonify, but then I'm not really running the app. So I was trying to use a web application library without really creating a root and all of that. If I would have just not used flask.jsonify and returned the data, then it wouldn't have created any errors. What if you want to return just the names? Yeah, we can do that. So instead of viewers, let's just call it as def display viewer names. Viewer names. Oh my God, I hate typing. Okay, viewer names, okay? And again, we don't really need anything for this other than just being able to filter the data out that we want to display. So in this case, what we're going to do is from the data, we only want to extract the name, right? So what we're going to do is because this is a list, we'll have to go to the individual objects, like individual dictionary, and only print out the value that has the key name. So let's do that in code. We would go through the loop. So for item in data is our list. We would print item with the key name. So now if I call this particular function over here, it should only print out the names. Stop. Oh, let me just stop the function. The app. And you can see we can only get the names out of our data. So we could return this pretty much if we only want to return the names of our viewers. But in order to do this using Flask on a web browser, we will have to add a few things like we did before. So let me comment this out. Let me run the app, but also create a root, which is viewer names. And then what we can do is perhaps because we want to return multiple things from a loop, what the best thing would be to store it in a separate variable and then return that variable. I think that would be the best course of action. So let's do that. I'm just curious to see what happens. Yeah, because you can't really return, because the moment you return a function, the function stops executing, and we want to let the function execute multiple times. So I'm just going to create a variable called names, which could be an empty list. And then we can have this as name is equal to this one. And we can say names.append name. And then finally, return names. But we would have to JSONify it. This is not technically without JSONify, it will work still, but I want to keep JSONifying things if I can. So I'm going to return names. So hopefully, now what's going to happen is if I go to viewer names, it should only return the names. And there you go. You only get back Ikra, Negvorsa, Ayush, and Weehu. So I know you want it in browser, but I like to first just run it locally to see if I get the logic right by running it in the console and getting back the data that I want, and then add the Flask bit just so that I'm returning the right thing without having to do multiple things at the same time. Cool, that was a good suggestion. So we've created 3 routes now. One, which is viewers, we can just go to viewers and have the whole list, but we could also have what did I write? Viewer names. And that is our entire list. But what if we want information, all the information of just one particular viewer? We can also do that. It's Python. Like, we have control over whatever code we write, the computer executes. So whatever we can make, whatever we can think of coding, the computer is basically like, I don't want to say slave, but kind of like a slave, because like it'll just do whatever we ask it to do. So I think that would be a good next thing to do. But these are all GET requests basically, because what we're doing is reading the data and displaying it to the HTTP browser. Okay. So just to again have good practice, what we would say is in the root itself, other than providing the slash URL, I don't know the technical term, it's also a good idea to provide which method this particular endpoint is following. So in all of these cases, it's a GET request, right? And then we will be covering the other ones later on. I think GET is usually the one that is by default, but the way you would do that is by providing methods and then saying GET. Oops, GET. Something like this. Stop rerun. And everything's working as it is. If I go to friends, not friends, sorry, viewers. Oh my god. Fringe. Yeah, it's working as it is. So these are our GET requests. So let me just quickly add that method. The reason why it worked is because GET request is pretty much the default request that a browser accepts. For putting and posting, that's where you would have to use Postman, because a browser, the way this is right now, it's only capable of displaying data. You can put and post requests using like the developer tools and going to the network, but that's a lot more involved and so unnecessary. That's why we have a tool called Postman to do all of that for us, so that we can just focus on writing our endpoints with minimal code as possible. Yeah, okay. So I lost track. What were you gonna do? Oh, instead of just displaying the data as it is, we are gonna ask in the root itself for a particular name, and depending on that name, we will display the rest of the data. I think that feels like a cool next step before we move on to the other HTTP methods. So this time we could say maybe we could create another app root. This is also going to be a GET request. In this case, we're going to say viewer, and this time we're actually going to provide a name. When we provide a name, depending on what this name is, that is the information that the browser will display. So whenever you want to provide a dynamic or like a variable instead of like a static root is exactly the string that you're providing as your root. But if you want to have like a variable inside your root, basically, you would put that in angular brackets. Okay. So this time we would go to something like viewer slash Ikra, viewer slash Weewu, viewer slash, I keep forgetting your name, Negvorsa. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So in this case, again, function display viewer. Yeah, I feel like that's like a good enough. Display viewer by name. I think that's better. I'm not good with naming things unless like I spend good 5-10 minutes on it, but let's just go with that. So this one will obviously take a name and then display it. So let's just go ahead. Whenever we call this function, we would have to provide a name to it. The name will come from this root, and we will then display the information related to it. So in this case, what we're going to do is, again, we are going to get access to the data, and we'll say, so again, let's just iterate through the data. Because I'm copy pasting code, this is a good time to put all of this iterative code into a separate function and call that function. But right now I'm just like rewriting code. So from item in data, we would say if item name is equal to name. So this is essentially, you go through each item in the data, and if that particular item's key's value is the name that you're providing, then you would want to display it, else you just print out an error or something. So let's just return item. Again, JSONify item, flask dot no, flask dot JSONify item. Else, because this name doesn't exist in our database, we would just say return name not found. I have some extra spaces. This looks good. I think by logic, this should work. So let's go ahead and experiment with this. I don't know if I'm going too fast. When I start coding, I get a little more excited and my brain starts working a little faster than when I'm just speaking without code. So let me know if I should slow down or not. But hopefully these lines of code should make sense. But no worries if it doesn't, and I can like re-explain it if you want. Anyways, let's run this. And this time we will be going to viewer, but also providing a name. So we are going to viewer, and let's start with Ikra. And if I do this, I'm only getting back my information, which is my name, my age, my favorite color, and my nationality. If I go to something like, I don't know, Malu, it says name not found. If I go and print, I didn't do any, I think it would be better if I did name dot lowercase and then name dot lowercase. This would be better because then it wouldn't matter if, yeah, let's run this. Restop and rerun. So now if I type Ikra, it should work. Even if I type small case Ikra, it should work. But if I type Malu, it says name not found. And now if I type wee woo, why didn't it work? What did I name you as? It should have worked. Why didn't it? Get 200 requests. Okay, let's try Ayush. Name not found. Why is it only working with Ikra? Oh, I get it. I think. No, actually, I don't understand. Oh, there's something wrong with my logic. So, what's happening is we are checking for the first name itself and printing the else. So, the else needs to go outside of the for loop. So, only when it's checked all the items in the data, if it doesn't find it, then you need to print the else. Because right now it's just checking for the first name, not finding it, just printing not found. So that was my fault. Okay, stop and rerun, and this time it should work. I promise. So this time let's print wee woo. There you go. He is 12 years old, indigo gray, wee woo Indian. If I go to would not exit on first. Yeah, I think you all were solving it for me, but yeah, I figured it out. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Negborsa. Sorry. Negborsa. Now see, even though I put all lowercase and in the database it has like some capital letter, some lower letter, it should still work because I put the lower function. Cool. Yay, we did it. So we got all the get functions to work. Hopefully that was helpful. Now we can move on to post and put and delete, and then I can end this live stream. And also, oh, we have like a coder user watching us, the shaky coder. Nice, I like that name. And then we also have Alerion. I feel like I've seen that name before. But I don't know if this is like the first time you're watching my live stream. But yeah, welcome to the live stream. You both, let me know how you found my live stream because like I don't know. Oh, no wonder. Why are you joining from Twitch, leaving YouTube? Yeah, because that's your Discord name. Okay. Yeah, cool. Cool. What am I gonna do next? Let us do post request next. So post, as I explained, is to create new data. Right now we have four data, four objects in our list. So let's go ahead and create a new viewer, which actually matches because we can add the shaky coder or Alerion to our list of viewers. Okay, so the process is pretty simple. The only things that will change is we will have to use Postman because remember, we can create a route, but we would only be able to execute a put or a post request using Postman rather than the browser because there's no way for us to enter the data and then send it back. Okay, the shaky coder, we'll pick you. So for shaky coder, try to think of what your name, age, favorite color, and nationality will be. No need to give your actual information, but just like come up with something. Okay, so let us create a separate function for that. Let us say def. It's a good, again, convention to start your function name with like create. Because we were displaying code here, we could either start with get or display. This time we're going to create a new viewer. So that's what we're going to call the function. Create viewer. Okay. And then this time we will be creating a post request, like I mentioned. But let's do that after we've figured out how to write the function. So in our create viewer, what we would have to do is, first of all, get our data that already exists and then append onto it, basically, right? So, but how do I do this? We would have to create a variable and then actually, yeah, all we have to do is basically just append the new data, right? So we could either do it through the function itself, but that would be the same viewer being added multiple times. But then we can also test it with Postman. So I don't know what I should do first. Let's try it with a static data first, and then we can use Postman as well to show you that it works. Yeah, I think that would be better. Okay, so we would say new viewer is equal to, and this should be the exact same as this, but the data actually would be different. Okay, sorry, is my internet dropping? I don't know if there's like a loading sign and I'm scared that my live stream stopped working. Has it? For me, there's no way to check if it is actually working or not, but hopefully it is working. I can see a new, okay, I can see a new comment. So can you all just see if it's working? Create function, take new viewer as argument, right? Yeah, that is correct. We will be just, We could either create the viewer here, or once we are providing the viewer, we could pass it on, like here. Okay, cool. That was scary. Yeah. So either way, I feel like that would be better to pass on the new viewer as a parameter. And then in the data, because it's already a list, data.append would be where we would be appending the new viewer and then returning that. So maybe you could say, oh yeah, we would just return data because we're appending to it. Oops. That should work. Essentially, that's all you need. But then when we convert it to a Flask endpoint, we would have to add like the root and the method and all of that. But let's just test our function right now as it is. So create viewer. Let me just create this new viewer at the top, or like right before I'm calling the function also. That should work. So the new viewer should be, I'll just copy this from here. The shaky coder. We can add Alerion using Postman, but for now, let's just use the shaky coder. Age, let's just put as 100, because I'm just going with 89, 99, 100. Favorite, that's like a iOS, what is it called? Animoji, I think. I'm just gonna put violet because that's your background. Oh my god, spellings, violet. Okay. Nationality, Indian. I just don't want to assume. So because I'm Indian, I'm just making everybody Indian. Cool. So we have the new viewer, and then create viewer. We will be using this function and passing on new viewer to it. And then hopefully, let's just comment this out. I mean, there's no big deal about this, because when we'll stop and run it, we forgot to print it. Oops. When we create the new viewer and then print the data, it should have, let's just print the data before it and after it to make sure it works. Run. Yeah. So previously it was only 4 people. And then when we created the viewer and then printed the data, we added the shaky coder. Cool. So the data works. Now let's go ahead and do that as, when should I take my new Indian? I'm not responsible. I only create the code. You have to talk to the embassy. Age 100. Honestly, if you are alive at 100 and capable of watching Twitch and typing things, I feel like that's a big win. So, I would say the color for sure. I want to live till 100. I only want to die once I go to space. You know how people take airplanes? If we are able to take like a rocket to the space, like when that becomes commercialized, I take one trip and then I'm ready to die. I don't have any other dreams in my life other than like just go to space once in a commercial spaceship. So I want to live to 100 just to be able to do that. Cool. Anywho, so yeah, now that our function is working, we can go ahead and convert it into a Flask RESTful API endpoint jargon, whatever you want to call it. So the first thing you have to do is, I will comment this out, make sure that the app is running, add a root. Now, because we are not really accessing it, we are using this to post. We can use an existing root, that doesn't matter. But then that's what we would have to provide to Postman. So I'm going to go ahead and use viewers as my root. I feel like that's like a good way to post things, because I'm going to add to viewers. So that feels like a right root to add to. So my root will remain the same. My method this time will actually be post, because I'm creating a new viewer. Okay, post. And then what else do I do? What I have to do this time is, in Postman, I will be creating a post request. right? So when I create the post request in Postman, I will have to get the response back when I go to this URL and execute this function and take that response back. So we, instead of, before we append the new viewer, we would have to get back that response. So we don't actually need the new parameter in this case because we are interacting with Postman and we're expecting a JSON object back. So these are the changes we'll have to make. We would have to capture our response. Response is equal to, we would have to, we would need requests module this time, because now import requests and then install this as well. This doesn't work. I'll have to use pip install. Terminal, pip install requests. Okay, things are happening. Gotta go enjoy the stream. Woohoo! Thank you for following. Thank you for enjoying. But yeah, take care. Thank you for tuning in. And with that said, import requests has been installed. Again, this is another, let me just Google and give you the official definition instead of making one up on my own. Requests Python package library, I think that's what it's called. Basically, it is a library that helps you. Requests is a HTTP client library for Python programming language, which lets you just like, once you make a request, you get back the response and you would interact by using this library. That's the best way I can explain it. So I don't know if Flask has any Flask.requests or not, but this is the way I've been taught. So I'm just passing that information on. Maybe there's a more efficient way, which I'm not aware of. I lost track of my route. Where is it? Post. Yeah. So in our post endpoint, we will be getting back that response that we are sending through Postman. So we would use the library that we just imported, request.get. I think it's called get response or get. Let me just double check. It is get JSON. Is it? Okay. Request.get JSON. So this is our response. And the response itself is what we will be appending to our data file. So request.append response. Again, this we could also call it as new friend because that's exactly what we'll be sending. But because we know we will be requesting and getting back a response, this is a good naming convention in this case. But you could very much call this new friend and then append it to our data. And then we can also return the data. So we will be on this browser. We would be able to access the new viewer because we are appending it and then returning it. But the post request will be made through Postman. Yeah, there's like a couple of things going around, but let me just show you to make more sense out of this. So I'm going to comment this new viewer. I'm not really using it anywhere. My app is running and I think everything's looking good. So let's run this server again. Going to the viewers bit this time. And here you can see, double slash also works. That's crazy. Right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we don't have the shaky coder right now, but we can add that using Postman. So let's open up Postman. Dun, 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 dun. You open Postman. Let me hide this. Now, Postman, again, a different tool to help us interact with our API that has our different endpoints. So this is our API server side. We have GET request, we have post request. Let us first see if our GET request is working properly, and then we can handle our post request. So similar to a web browser, in Postman, what we can do is we have to enter the URL that we want to make the request to. So in our case, it is this URL along with the root. But if we were hosting our local server in like Heroku or something, we would have heroku.com something something. But right now we're just doing things locally. And then the actual root will be viewers. Okay, viewers. So this is our URL. We are making a GET request, and we are sending this request from Postman to our API to execute our function. Send. Something's happening, and we get back this response, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 people. Cool. Things are working. So now that things are working with GET request, we will change our HTTP request to a POST request. Great. Now, because it's a POST request, what we then have to do is in the body, have to provide the actual data that we want to post. Let's go and post some raw data in the form of JSON. Okay, and in the body itself, we will go ahead and take our new friend from here. Oh, let's comment this out, take it, and then comment back in. Ah, what's going on? Okay. So I've copied it. Let me just comment this out. So again, in Postman, we are putting this in the body as a post request as a JSON object. Okay. And now we're sending this request so that the function can take back that response and update our data accordingly. Send. Something happened. That's not good. Maybe because we're getting some internal error, which is not good. Either the server is overload or there's an error in the application. Did we not rerun it? Request.getJSON. Something's wrong with our function. Let's see. Cannot find reference getJSON in init. Let's just go to the, is there a documentation for this? It should be, oh, is it just get request? No, it is get requests for sure. Does anybody know? I'm sure. Is the response formatted as dictionary? Yeah, it is already formatted as the dictionary that we're expecting. So that shouldn't be a problem. Or is it request? Did I import the wrong one? Wait. Did I import requests? Maybe. Okay, let me just see if I imported. I imported requests, but maybe it's requests. Let's just import that. Request. Pip install request. There's some bot coming into my chat. Oh my god. Chaos request. Could not find a version that satisfies the requirement request for version. Wait, let's just do a little bit of Googling. Requests versus request Python. And I'm trying to see which one I want. Custom. No, absolutely not. Necessary cookies only. Oh, yeah, we do want requests. And then we want requests.getJSON. Let me just do a little bit of debugging on the fly to see what I am not doing properly. Parses the incoming JSON request data, which is what we're expecting, and returns it. Will return none if the application JSON, but this can be overridden by a force parameter. Let's just close all of the other things that we're not using right now. Oh my god, okay. Yeah, okay. Wait. Wait. Did I leak something? Wait. Okay, this is my live stream, so that's fine. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's fine. I was on this browser and then I switched to the other browser and I didn't want. Oh my god, my cat was still there. Oh, there's too many browsers going on. And I didn't even use my incognito, which is stupid. Yeah, okay. Let's just go with request because that is the right one and that's what we imported. And go back to our post request. Yeah, here. Requests dot get. Oh, we didn't even provide the URL, I think, that we'll be expecting it from, but then it should get it back from. Oh, is that the case? Oh, yeah, that's what we're missing. We didn't even provide the URL that we're going to get response back from. So I think that was our fault. Because we will be expecting our postman to get back the response from here, I think, and then append it, right? Is that what we were missing? Okay, let's just run this. And see if that works. Okay, that is running. In Postman, we go to viewers, send this post request, send. Still not working. That's kind of sad. 500 internal error server, which is oh, let me turn on the debug to see if it gives me like a better clue of what's going on. So in app, I have turned on the debug flag just to see if it's going to give me some more helpful information. Okay, and then if I go to our get requests are working properly. It's just our post request that is acting up. Get JSON. Let me double check. Sorry for the confusion. Let's see. Okay. Let me maybe go to an old project that I'd created long back. This is why I should have prepared other than the slides. Yeah, so what I'm trying to do right now is go to a old project that I created like weeks back, I would say, and see if I'm missing any code. But that's on like a separate screen, so you won't be able to see. So feel free to take a minute or two because that computer is slow. API test project, that's what it was called. And then let me see how I made my get request that time. Post, okay. Get JSON, yeah, that's exactly how I did it. And I didn't even provide a URL that time because the URL is the same. So I don't know, why is there a yellow squiggly line? Cannot find reference get JSON, but why not? That's an actual function that exists. Friend request. Wait. Oh. So this was the confusion. I found it. I found what was wrong. I was getting confused between. Yeah, I can print out no, it wouldn't print out because that's where my fault was. So instead of using a separate library called import requests, what I have to use is the requests from Flask itself. And that was my mistake. Sorry. When you're creating like a client-side file, that's when you would use requests. But right now, because we're using Flask, it comes with a request slide function inside the framework itself, and that's what we're supposed to use. So apologies. So in our server side, because we're using Flask, when we are sending the response, we would be getting back the response. But here we would have to do flask.request.getJSON. And now all the errors went away. So that was my fault. So confusing because there's requests and there is request without an S. One lives inside Flask, the other one doesn't live inside Flask, and it's a separate library of its own. So in this case, because we are actually creating the API, we have to use the one that is inside the Flask application itself. So now, hopefully, everything I shouldn't say all this and then it should not run. But yeah, let's go ahead and stop and rerun. And now let's go ahead to Postman and now send the data. Woohoo! And it actually worked. So now you will go and see that the shaky coder has been added to our data. And because our HTTP browser, we can actually get the requests, which we already sent. So if I go to viewers, the shaky coder is there. Yay! Woohoo! I am so relieved that I was able to debug that in real time. I was getting nervous. But yeah, we solved that. So that's another thing I will never forget in my life because I made that mistake live on Livestream. But just remember, there are two request functions, one inside Flask, which you will use whenever you're creating the server side of your API. And in your client side, whenever you're trying to get back data, you would use the requests library as a separate import. Okay, so post works. So instead of just adding shaky coder, we could also import, we could also send somebody else maybe. This time maybe you can send. So do we require the respect the dictionary format? That's a good question. We can try it out and see if it breaks. So what do you want me to do? Maybe we could not give nationality and see if that works. Do you want to try that? So if I send this, it still works. Yeah, you just get oh, do you want me to send it as a list? Let's see what happens. So I mean, technically this is not correct because if you want a key value pair, you would have to send it as a dictionary. So let's just send a list of values to the root and see what happens. Let's just send 2, 3, and maybe a name. Okay, so I'm sending a list, like posting a list to this root and seeing what I get back. Oh, I can actually literally send anything. That is scary. That is not good. So we would have to do some error handling so that we only, this is how you might be able to break your database if you don't provide if you're, first of all, you would never just store things in a separate Python file. So if you're creating it and sending data to a database, it would expect certain values. And if they can't be null, you won't be able to send those. You can't send the values empty. But in this case, because we are running with a random list, which can have any data, basically, we can send back whatever we want. So yeah, so dictionary with an extra data validation is something that we haven't covered at all. So that's good because technically it doesn't break, but the fact that we can populate our data with any wild thing that we're posting, I'm pretty sure we can even just send a string and it will work now. Hello world. Send it. Literally, we're sending everything and it's just getting added to our data. But yeah, good question. I really like that question because I never tried it on my own because I was expecting to send a dictionary, so I always try to send a dictionary. But it makes sense, right? It's literally a list and you're trying to append to it. So anything that you can append to a list will work using the post request that we're using through Postman. Okay, cool. So post request works. And another thing to remember is because our actual Python file only has 1, 2, 3, 4 objects right now, the moment we stop the server and rerun it again, everything gets wiped out and we start off with this list originally. So if you want the data to persist, you might have to, instead of a Python list, you might have to use a read write function using files, or actually use a proper database. But that's outside the scope of this particular live stream. So I might cover that in a later live stream, but right now we're just focusing on the basics. Cool. Oh my god, is it already 2 hours? Okay, let's finish the other two requests really quick, because the logic is the same. You would have to change the method and provide the right data and use Postman to be able to do things around. Yeah. So let me stop the server and rerun it again so that all of this is wiped out. So again, now if I rerun it, it's running like a fresh list, and all of that is gone. Cool. But I feel bad. I should at least add the shaky. No, I'll add them later on. Now let's focus on. Does anybody remember which request I will be focusing on next? We did get, post. 2 of them are left. Which one should we do next? Any suggestions? I'll wait so that I also get a pause of just not speaking. Update. Okay. Neg Versa says update. Do you remember what the actual HTTP method would be if you want to update it? Like, what would we put inside the method for updating? Because we can't really put update here. That would give us an error. I mean, right now it won't, but when you actually run it, okay, that's fine. A clue would be just going to Postman, and these are your HTTP options that you can actually send. So we got post. The next one is put for updating. So remember, get is to create, post is to, why do I keep saying that? Get is to read, post is to create, put is to update, and delete is for delete. So next one we'll be focusing on is put. Right now, if we send this, nothing's going to happen because we don't really have a put request in our code. So it should show, hopefully, should give you an error. And it did. It said method not allowed because we don't have one yet. The moment we create one in our Flask application, it should allow us to execute this method. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Oh, and this method not allowed is, the error code for that is 405. Just something like a random piece of information to remember. Cool. Let us go ahead and create a put request this time. So again, similar, like as long as the function works, we would have to make certain tweaks and it should work. So this time, let's do update viewer. Now, it would be good to just be able to update one viewer at a time. So this time in our actual, what would you say, root, we would have to provide the viewer that we're trying to update. I think there are a bunch of ways you can do this, but this is what I'm going with. So update viewer, we will get the viewer's name. Maybe it would be a better idea to have an ID and allocate that viewer using that ID, but right now we don't. So I'm just going to go ahead and allocate the update to the particular name. Update viewer by name, and then you will actually again have to go through the list and see if the viewer exists. Otherwise, you can't really update. So let's just do that again for item in data. If item name is equal to name, then you can go ahead and update the fields. So what should I do? I can pretty much just update the entire object, I think, and I'll just send the entire JSON object as a put request. I think that's the easiest one instead of like individual fields. Yeah. So if item name is equal to name, then I should be able to update item Ooh, I should get the index of. Ooh, because I to update, I would have to provide the index, like something like item 0 is equal to the response, something like that. And the response will again, we'll get back from JSON. Oh, right now we're not doing, sorry. I'm doing too many things at a time. Let me calm down. So for item in data, if that name exists, we would then be able to find that item's index and then change that item to the new information. So new info, yeah. And then we can focus on converting it to a Flask application. So this is the only bit missing. In order to find the index of an item, I think there's an index of in Python, but let me just quickly Google and find the easiest way to do it. So find index of element. Oh, perfect. Find index of element in list Python. Let's see what the quickest way to do that is. So if you provide the entire list dot index, oh, okay, let's just get this whole thing. And provide index is equal to, this will become data dot index of item, index of no. But that's the entire object though. So I can't really use this. Or can I? No, I can't use this. Find index of element in list dictionary. Find index of dictionary. Sorry. Dict in list. Yeah, that's what we're trying to search. So find the index of a dictionary within a list is our what we're trying to find the answer to. Ew, this is so complicated. I don't like when all of the code is in one line. It's so hard to read. So maybe we should just create one on our, oh, this one looks nice. Find, so for I, and then this is the dictionary in element. Should I just write one on my own instead of just copying this? I don't know. Let me see how I did it. Can you hear the ambulance? I don't know. I'm sure there'd be like an easier way to do this. Get index. Yeah. What should I do? I would say, again, this is like a different Python program, this thing to handle. And right now, because my brain is just like almost like at max capacity, I'm just going to include the index in the object itself so that I can easily get it. This is not the best way. Again, I would highly discourage you to do this, but I feel like this is the easiest way right now. So I'm just going to provide the index within the data itself. And index starts with 1, so that's what I'm going with. 0, 1, 2, 3. Cool. We could even say ID, but let's just go with index to make it clear. So now that we have like a better set of data, we can actually access that here. So we would say item index. No, what am I doing? Yeah, index. So this would become item of 0 is equal to new info. I think this should work. Because if I provide ICRA, then ICRA's item index is 0. But if I provide VIVO, VIVO's index is 3, so this would still remain 3. and then I'm just changing the entire item to the new information. That should make sense. And then if I don't find it, I would just say else, and I'm not really using this anymore. Else, name not found. Return name not found. Okay, this should work. So what I have to provide is a name, and I should provide the new info in the sense of a dictionary. That's one thing that we should keep in mind. Okay, let's call this function and see what happens. Oh, let me comment out the app, otherwise it's going to complain. Update viewer. So let's say I want to update my name, and the new info that I'm providing is the whole thing. Ew, this is such ugly code. So my name, I can even change my name maybe, but I don't want to change my name. Let's say I'm 100 years old and my color is violet and I have become British, because right now I'm in the UK. Okay, so update viewer. When I call this function, because the name matches, my information will get updated to this particular this thing. So let's actually print out the data and actually see if that works. Run, stop and rerun. And my information actually gets updated instead of adding a new ICRA to the file. So that's what we wanted. So update is working. Oh, what is index? Lists, right? So let's say we have list of names. Index is something that I added to my data right now. But in the concept of programming, if you have list of names, let's say, again, I'm so self-obsessed. Ikra, Peter, William. Okay, Ikra, Peter, William. So this list, in order to identify each item in a list, you have an index available to you. And the index always starts with 0. So list of names with index 0 is actually Ikra. Index of 1 is Peter. And the last item is index 2. So 0, 1, 2. That's how, because a list is an ordered value of items, each item can be then identified using an index. So if now I print list of names with that index of 2, then William should get printed out. So if I run this, you see William gets printed out because list of names is a list and the index of that is 2. So list item with index 2 is William. So this concept I'm trying to utilize with my data. And because my data also is a list, each item I've provided the key value as the actual index of it, so that when it comes to updating, so now if I say list of names, this list 2 becomes Robert, right? So now that I print my list of names, it actually gets updated. So Ikra Peter William became Ikra Peter Robert. So by allocating the index to a list, we can then use it to update things. I don't get it in the function context. Oh, sorry. Okay. Maybe you already knew all of this information. So in the function concept, where is it? In our update viewer, what we are doing is we are providing, when we are calling the function, we are providing a name of the viewer that we want to update the information for. But in order to get the person that we want to update the information for, we have to provide the index to that item. And then, just like how we made William turn into Robert, we turn the item with that particular index into the new item. So it's the same concept, but we're using it within a list of dictionaries. Does that make sense? But this is not a good way of doing it because there is a built-in function called index of, and I think it's better. Actually, yeah, I could just use that, right? No, I can't use it because I'm providing the name. I wouldn't really know at what index that name is because it's inside the function. So because I'm too tired right now, I'm not able to find the index without just providing it as a hard-coded value. So that's my fault. But that's where the index comes from. And we just tested the function right now. It kind of works because my actual name is Ikra, but I changed it to lowercase Ikra with all these different values, and it actually works. So I'm just going to run with it. So now that we have the update function working, we can now convert it to a Flask application method root. In order to do that, what we would have to do is, again, provide a root. We could say, maybe we can just go to the individual viewer name and then provide it. I feel like that's better. So we have viewer, we provide a name, and this time it's a put method. Cool. Put method, we get the viewer name from here, so that makes sense. The new info we will get from the response. I still think it's wrong. As in, like, it's not going to work or it's the wrong way to code things. That's two different meanings behind wrong. So let me know which one you mean. But the new info, instead of providing it in the function, we will actually get it from the response. So the response, like last time, will become flask.request.getJSON. So when we put the method, it's going to give this to us back. And we can then just update the new index with this response. So we're not using new info. We can change it. We can take it away. And if that name doesn't exist itself, we will say name not found. I think this should work. But I say that with a lot of hesitance. So let's actually test it and see if we have to debug the code or not. Coding, the best thing to do is just like, try something out. If it doesn't work, then figure out why it's not working and, blah, blah, blah. It's like you say, what I'm doing is, oh, you are correct. No, what I'm doing is, instead of changing, I see what your confusion is. Instead of saying item age, okay. But I think then that is true what you're saying. Instead of item index, you are correct. Oh my God, you're a genius. Instead of item index, I should change the entire response to the item itself. Isn't that true? Right? Yes, you are right. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. So instead of, yeah, I feel like now it should work because we are getting the item from here once it matches, and then we're changing the entire item to the response that we're getting back. That's true. That's true. Yeah, so we didn't really need the index because we already have the item that we want to change. Yeah, that was all redundant work that we didn't really have to do. My bad. Thank you for correcting me. So, okay, now I have more confidence because we just clarified this whole thing. So now it should work, maybe? Okay, run. Things are running. Let us first go to our Postman and go to our GET request itself, to the right URL, and look for myself. Send. Okay, so I'm getting Ikra Indian 0 blue 25. And now I don't know Python, just C. I mean, yeah, technically all these concepts are the same in all the programming languages, right? So if the fact that you know C, you're very much able to understand where I'm doing things correctly in Python or like making a mistake. So yeah, thank you. I have never written C, so I don't know. But then I guess the concepts will be the same. But let's get back to the put request. So we go to put, and again, just like post or put, we would have to put something in the body of the request to send it back so that the response can catch it. So I want to change Ikra's details. And again, go to body, JSON object, and instead of this, we shall, what shall I change? I shall change my age to 101. And because I'm wearing black, I'll just put favorite color is black. The rest can remain the same. So now if I send it, before I press send, do you think it'll work or not? I think it should work. But what are your guesses? I'll wait till somebody responds. Do you think works? It doesn't work. Those are your two options. Let's see. Ooh, I like the confidence, Alarian. It's gonna work. Okay. Moment of truth. Let me press the send button. Send it. Oh, it says name not found. That's rude. I mean, it worked. Our error handling worked, but why did it work? Name. Did I do the same mistake again? So it definitely came till this branch. However, um, let's see. Lower. But that shouldn't matter because literally it's like capitalized IQRH and IQRAH. So that is not the mistake. Uh, for item in data, if item's name is equal to Ikra, then we're changing it. And if I go back to my viewers, what does it have? Yeah, that hasn't changed. So what did I do wrong? Any suggestions? You're saying I should put lower for this one, like last time. Okay, we can try that. Name dot lower. Let's rerun the stop and rerun. Things are rerunning. And then if I put the request, yeah, it still says name. What is wrong? What if I put somebody else? We. Yeah, everything's coming back as not name not found. Let me just put something as like, maybe I should create the response after I locate the object. Maybe that's the fault. So once I get the object is when I uh, allocate it. Maybe. This is just me guessing at this point. Okay, it's rerunning. Send. That didn't make a difference. I mean, that shouldn't have. um, maybe. Yeah, that's a good idea. Try printing the names before the if statement. See what it reads. Okay. But I don't think the name is the problem. I feel like we're not able to set it properly because we need to get the index. No, actually, how do you update a dictionary is my question. Because maybe I'm not doing it properly. Let's say we have a dictionary, something like return in if. Uh, Sorry, what are you guys saying? Try putting the names before the if statement. Try putting the. Oh, but I'm not returning anything. So, is that my fault? Because this is anyways getting executed because I don't have another return statement inside where things are, happening. So it's always returning. Yeah, that's true. Line 42 should return, not continue. That's true. That if it fails in the if cause, it gives us the name. Um, so what I want to do is go through every item, and only when it finds it, it should just do something and return. Else, if none of this happens, only then I should. The logic is a little flawed. I don't like the logic, but yeah. If I just return data, maybe that should happen. But I don't think, no, I feel like at this point, even if it does find or doesn't find things, it's still at the very end returning name not found. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't matter whatever logic is getting executed, what it's finally returning as a response is name not found. So if I run this now, and now let's see what happens. Okay. So it was working. It was just like my fault of not returning the right thing. So right now I'm returning data. So it should return back the updated, but I don't think I'm still updating it the right way because the data is still old. What if I return item? I want to see what item is. Let's run this. Stop rerun. Go back to Postman. Post the request. Okay. Oh, so to actually reflect that in the data, I would have to then get hold of the index and replace it, I think. Okay. Okay. So now because things are working, I know where to go wrong. This is really bad coding, by the way. I feel like all this should be in a separate function and I shouldn't be using else on its own, but this is fun to me. Okay. So now because we are able to return the response, which is the updated response, we should then be able to update it in the list. And the way I will do that is by getting out of the list, right? This is where we use index. No. Oh my God. No, 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 no. Yeah, we're still here. We should be able to. This is where I originally wanted to use the response, but I got confused. So maybe here is where I change it and then return the data. Yeah. So now it should work. Okay. I just want to see what I did. I don't even want to. My brain is not working right now. I can't code for like 2.5 hours continuously. Okay, let's see. Yeah, no, that was bad. That was really bad. Okay. Because this is only valid in the context of an if statement. What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? How do I up? Yeah, I want to know how to. So what I'm trying to say is if my dictionary is equal to something like this, right? Name, Ikra, age 101. So can I do my dict 0? this shouldn't, like, how do I change the entire dictionary content without going individually to the contents? No, this is too much work. What I shall do is re-strategize and okay, wait. Let me just print things so I know where everything is. So print item. This should get me hold of the individual dictionaries, right? And then I'm trying to take Weewoo, which is the index of 3. So once I have the, oh, okay, I know what I want to do. So what I want to do is take the data itself, because that is a list where we can use the index. Yeah, okay. So once we have if item name, I don't, lower is a good thing, so we'll keep it as it is. Hi Nirmay, welcome to the stream. I'm struggling, but we should get through this. I'll figure out a way. I just need like a few runs. So response we're getting back, which is correct, because once we return the response, we're getting back what we expect. Let me just confirm that. Return item. Yeah. Let's just debug this for now, and then I'll make the necessary changes so that it gets added to the actual data object. So right now, if I do Weewoo, it gets, this is what I get back, which is good because that is what I'm returning. Now the only thing left is to index is equal to item index, because we already have that hard coded. And then what I do is I take the data index and change it to the response, or change it to the item, doesn't matter, both are the same. And then I return data. So now everything should work as expected. So if I run this, stop and rerun, it's going. And now if I send a put request with my name, then I should get back the entire data object with the updates. And that's exactly what happened. So everything remained the same, but only my favorite color and age gets changed. So I achieved what I wanted to, but in the worst way possible. And this is the code. There's just so much redundant code that I hate looking at it, but we got there at the end. And I feel like I'm just going to run with this, because this bit of the code, which is like the actual Python code, I feel like somebody who is more proficient in Python than me can optimize it. But hopefully this makes sense. This time, because we're trying to update an existing object, the what we're trying to do is get hold of that item. After getting hold of that item, we are then capturing the response that we're getting from Postman, and we are converting that item into the new response. And just because this is a temporary allocation, we have to get hold of the item index and then convert the entire object into the new information item. So that's what we're doing here. And at the end of all of this execution, we are returning the whole object, the whole data object. But in case we send a put request with something that doesn't exist, it should give us back name not found. Cool, that was update. And finally delete, I feel like should work the same way. Let's just do delete, and then I won't delete this live stream. I'll keep it up, but I have so much respect now for people that live code on live streams. This is not easy. This is actually not easy. The type of item is dict and has key value. Can we just update the value? That's exactly what I don't know how to do. So what are you saying? The type of item in dict is the type of yeah, that's true. The type of item is dict and has key. Yes, key value. Can we just update the value? But we want to update like individual values. So we would have to like write something like this, right? Index, sorry, item name is equal to response name, and then so on and so forth. Is that what you're asking me to do? Whereas if I just capture the index, then I can convert the whole object, the whole dictionary itself, without accessing individual key values um, to the new updated information. Or do you know a better way of changing the entire dictionary object to the new value in one line of code? I'll wait for your response. And got it. I need to learn Python syntax. Oh yeah, that's true. Maybe C has a more optimized way of doing it. But I don't know how to convert an entire dictionary object to a new dictionary object without accessing individual key value pairs, which is why I'm just taking the index and converting the entire object. Which is, again, I feel like data validation is not working, so there's 100% chance to mess up the entire data object here, but I'm just going to leave it like this for now. Yeah, so I'm just going to keep this here and move to deletion. Deletion, I'm just going to go ahead and just do it. I think it'll be very much similar to put, but with a delete request. So we still have to find an existing object. Let's go to viewers this time because we can. There's no limitation on which route we can go to make this request, as long as on Postman we are in the right URL. Method delete. Okay. So this time we want to send a delete request in our viewers URL with the name. Let's just go with name. So let's say for item in data, if item name dot lower is equal to lower, then we don't really want to get back any response. We can just go ahead and delete that entire object. And again, to do that, let me just Google it because I'm blanking out. Delete item in Python list. Let's see what the options are. So we have options for clear. Oh, ew, do not consent. Clear, pop, remove, delete. Remove feels promising. No, I don't like it. I want the one with an index, I think. Oh, I like this one. Pop has an index out. Yeah. So I want to use pop instead of delete because I have access to the index. So what I'm going to do is, once I have access to the index, I'm going to go to my data.pop and provide the index and then return the entire data. So this should work. I have a lot more confidence in this now that I know where my index is helping me. So I'm just going to create the something happened. Oh, I changed to views, but then this function is taking name, which I'm not passing anymore. Oh, I should pass. My bad. Because we need a name. Name. There you go. Okay, run it. What's going on? View function mapping is overwriting an existing endpoint. Oh my god. Do you know what the fault is? This is when I didn't even read the error message and I tried to change it. Basically, I'm using update viewer twice, so it's getting confused. It's saying hey, you're trying to override a function that already exists. I'm confused. What do you want me to do? So in this case, we actually want to delete a viewer. Delete viewer. Okay. Yeah. And the rest should work, I think. I don't like this. I feel like I should put this here. Viewer delete. And then I can get back my data. Yeah. Okay, I like this now. Okay, things are running. Things are running. So I go back to Postman. Hopefully, this is like the last request I have to execute. I will go to delete now. Perfect. I go to viewer and try to delete myself because that's exactly what I want to do right now in real life. Viewer Ikra, and hopefully when I send this request, I will get back an entire data object without myself in it. Okay, and it worked. Woohoo! I'm not there. Let's go. So if I even go to the viewers now, I am gone. I'm gone. And that's how you would delete. Obviously, if you let's delete all of you one by one. So Ikra is gone. Next up, I think Ayush is gone. I don't see him in the chat anymore. So Ayush, send it. Okay, two remain. If we send Nirmay, I guess Nirmay was never added, so it should say Nirmay name not found. Nice one. So if we look at this, we have two remaining. Who wants to go next? Uh, Maybe Weewoo? Weewoo goes. Oh, Weewoo doesn't want to go? Why? Send me. But it says not found. That's so rude. Wait, why is it not working? Maybe you're already gone, that's why it's not working. Oh, what? Oh, because I'm hard coding index values, I think I put your index as Ayush's and Ayush's index as yours. So that's like a big flaw in my code right now. But in order to send, oh my god, I'm molding right now. Something's going. Okay, let's just work with the neg Vorso. I think neg Vorso we can send safely. Send it. Woohoo! Gone. Wait, what? Why the people that I'm sending are staying in my viewers list? I'm so confused. This is a bad API design. Maybe I should change this tutorial to how not to build an API. But anyways, things were going like somebody was getting deleted, right? You believe me. I'll send you. See you on the other side. Nice. Yeah. So that's done. Let me just do a final get request and see what actually remains. Neg Vorso remains. I don't know how, but yeah, that's it. Let me just run this one more time to see what's going on. Because I don't think I'll be able to sleep properly if I don't figure out what I'm doing wrong. Let me just double check. 3 is Vivo. Yeah, everything seems to be okay. 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Things are running. If I do a get request to viewers, all of them exist, which is nice. Now, if I try to delete myself, which I will have to go to right now, if I try to delete, it wouldn't work because there is no URL like this. Yeah, URL not found. I actually have to go to viewer, Ikra, and I am gone. So if I want to delete Vivo, it should work, right? Vivo. Out of range. Oh, of course. That makes sense. Because we're deleting and we're making use of like an old out of out of context index, that makes sense. Because right now we're popping the index, so out of 3, only 2 remain. This is such a bad way of programming. Oh my god, I'm not even gonna. No, don't do this. At least for delete, find a better way to get the index instead of finding the hard coded value. This is a really bad idea, but essentially, in theory, it works. That's what I'm gonna say. Cool. So let us go back to my beautiful slides. Where is it? Where is it? Oh no, I want to present. 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 Ta-da! Make sure to subscribe if you want to look at other scuffed content related to coding or just like non-coding related stuff. I'm very much into badminton. I don't know if you can see my badminton racket, but I love playing badminton, so I feel like I'm going to make more badminton content as well, and maybe stick to coding so that the more I live stream coding, the more I get more confident and improve my coding skills. Very nice 1 hour education video. Oh, thank you. Oh my god. Wait. I can show you like a heart as well because of this new Mac OS feature. It's not working. Nothing's working. Oh, ta-da! So cool. Yeah. 1 hour education video. Good to know. Good to know. And share this if you want. I would recommend not sharing it because there were like a lot of mistakes in this tutorial. So, but we live and we learn. And yeah, if you're watching this not as a live stream but as a recorded video and you reach this part, and if you do have some questions or suggestions of how to improve this code, comment it down below. With that said, I don't think I have any more slides, so I'm just gonna go now and play some badminton to get back my sanity. Somebody called me cute. Name gaming. Hi, name gaming. Thank you. Peak self-promotion. I know. I mean, I would rather have you guys promote something that I'm proud of than like this mess of a live stream. But this shall never get deleted from my channel. I want this to exist forever. Even when I hand in my resignation, I can probably send this link and be like, yo, this is why I should not be a software developer. You should have fired me, but here's my resignation instead. Yeah, okay. And now I'm just blabbering, so I'm just gonna go now. 3 hours of live streaming, crazy. I'm gonna go now. Bye. Take care, everybody. Happy coding and any other hobbies that you have. If you want to watch more coding videos and you have any topics, let me know. Bye. Okay, bye.